Hey guys, so I want to talk about a new type of content that I'm going to try for this channel. We'll see if there's an audience for it, and if there is, then I'll continue with it. Those of you that know me personally know that I like to reread and rewatch the same stuff. I've been told that this is a way that some people cope with anxiety, which probably checks in my case. But my wife and I have a tendency to rewatch shows like Parks and Recreation over and over again instead of watching new shows. I will rewatch The West Wing, Law and Order, and so on and so forth. And I am an avid reader. I have been my whole life. I wasn't allowed to watch much TV growing up. I've mainly read both children's and adult books, and mainly murder mysteries. And I have two favorite authors to reread, of at least when it comes to fiction. And one of them is Terry Pratchett, who's a kind of a fantasy and satire author, and the other is Jonathan Kellerman, who is a mystery author. And as I pointed out, I love murder mysteries. I love Law and Order, or Criminal Minds, or anything like that. I used to read Agatha Christie growing up, and Jonathan Kellerman has a series of books centered around a character named Alex Delaware, who is a child psychologist, and his best friend is a homicide detective in the Los Angeles Police Department named Milo Sturgis, and there's a series of several dozen books featuring those characters. And what I've done, because like I said, I read a lot when I was a kid, and then when I was an adult, I didn't find much time for it, and I missed it. And the only time I'd really ever read is if I was in the airport. I'd bring books for the airport and the plane and everything like that. And at one point, my wife said, "Well, why don't you get a Kindle app?" And I said, "No, I really like holding the physical book." She eventually convinced me to get a Kindle app, and what I did is I downloaded all of Kellerman's books to my phone. And so now, when I'm at a stoplight, when I'm in traffic and the car's not moving, when I'm in line at the bank, when I'm waiting for my takeout, anytime that I'm just sitting and waiting, and normally I'd check my email, I'd check social media, I'd check the news. I still do those things sometimes, but more often than not, I'll open up the Kindle app and I'll read the Kellerman books. And I typically read them in series. I'll start from the first book, go all the way to the end, and then start over again. And so what this series of videos is going to be is I'm going to discuss the book, starting with the first one, going to the end. And the way that I'll be discussing it will be kind of like, so my wife is a big Marvel fan, and we watch these reactions and reviews and rants on Marvel movies where people who are huge nerds like her will talk about what they liked and didn't like, and they're very familiar with the source material. So I'll be doing something like that. It won't be a review for like somebody who's never read these books. There'll be plenty of spoilers. It won't be, it'll be as though it'd be the discussion that I would have with the author or the publisher or somebody else who rereads the books like I do and is as familiar with them as I am. And so I'll just be, sharing those kind of thoughts with you guys. And if there's enough of an audience, other people that read these books that have similar thoughts and are interested in discussing it, then great. So just for those of you who aren't familiar, I'll tell you a little bit about the books. Again, they're mostly murder mysteries. Alex Delaware is a child psychologist, and sometimes the cases, the murders, and whatever investigations start with him, with a therapy or family court case or something similar that went really bad, and then he calls in his best friend, who's a detective, and they try to figure out what happened. Or sometimes the detective has a case, and he will consult with Alex Delaware on the case for his input. And so it is kind of significant to the plots that Alex is straight and dates numerous women over the series, and Milo, the detective, is gay, and he mostly dates one guy over the course of the series. And it really kind of highlights a friendship between a straight man and a gay man, which nowadays I would hope that's pretty commonplace, but the first book was written in 1985 when that was kind of frowned upon. And in some circles, I think it still is today. So that's an important part. These books, much like a lot of the art that I like, I mentioned The West Wing. I'm a big fan of Aaron Sorkin. I mentioned Terry Pratchett. I like his Discworld series. a lot of the stuff that I like is more character driven than plot driven, and that is Kellerman's strengths. I believe is he writes really good characters. The plots are sometimes the weak points of the book, and we'll definitely talk about that. Throughout the course of the discussions. Other thing that I wanted to mention is so he's got the series of books about Alex and Milo. And then there are a few other books that are in universe but not in series, where they deal with auxiliary characters from the same universe. And I'll be covering those as well. I typically read them in the same sequence as I do the series books. I'll just wherever they come chronologically. There are some things that I skip. There's one book called The Web that I've never been able to finish. I pick it up and I start it, and I just this is terrible. I can't get through it. And a lot of fans of Kellerman's work feel the same way. A lot of people don't read that book, and I've tried numerous times. I've never finished it. So maybe I'll do if we get that far, if there's enough interest, maybe I'll do a video on The Web where I just say didn't read it and the video's over. Then he also has a lot of books that he's written with his wife. His wife is also an author, and with I believe one or more of his sons or nephews or something to that effect. I've tried to read the books that he co-writes with other people, and I can't get through them. They're not as readable to me, so I won't be dealing with those. It'll be just the solo authored Kellerman books in the Alex Delaware universe. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to cover. I think that most of the people that read the books tend to have the theory that Alex Delaware is, and there's a term for it that I'm blanking on, but he's who Kellerman wishes he was. He's kind of that, idealized version of himself. Because Kellerman is also a child psychologist, which is why he's able to write Alex so well and so thoroughly. But there's also a element of all the girls love him, and he's so smart, and he's so great at everything he does, and you can kind of sense that projection, which sometimes is a little annoying and sometimes is very endearing. And again, things that particularly stand out to me as pet peeves, I will definitely be including in the discussion. So, I look forward to your comments if this is something that interests people, and I will be posting these rants/reviews as I go through the series this time, and I hope you enjoy them. Thank you so much for watching, and please like, comment, and subscribe.